In this video, I want to demonstrate how to write an array and a vector. So we're going to start with an array, and we're going to talk about how to populate it and how to pull information or the elements from the array. So that's where we'll start. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the IOStream and the include. For the work that we're going to do today, I'm not going to use the include string just because I don't need it. So normally we'd put the include string, but like I said, I'm not going to use it today. I will use the using namespace std so we don't have to rewrite the console part. And so let's go ahead and do some work. So the first thing we need to do in the main is, and today we're just going to do everything in the main. We're not going to create a function or anything. And so the first thing I like to do is I'm going to say what it is we're doing. So we're going to do an array, and this is going to be a one-dimensional array, so nothing too complicated. We're going to start nice and easy. I most likely will do a couple of videos on arrays and vectors, but for right now we'll just start with a simple one-dimensional array. Okay, so a moment here. I'm going to go ahead right now and I'm going to code a little bit, and then I'll go back and explain what I did. Alright, so what I did was I created an array called int list, and int of course means it's going to be filled with integers, and then I went ahead and populated it. So the brackets indicate what's going to be inside the array, and then these are the values that I gave to the array: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember that the array will also have an index of every one of these places, so this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which means that these could be other numbers. This could be 7, 8, 9, 10, and so forth. But the index would still be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to identify that element of the array. Okay, so we wrote our array, we declared it, we initialized it, and we populated it. Very quick and easy. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, oh, and then right here I just went ahead and put this little array string so that the console can write out array, and that way we know what's happening. Okay, so to retrieve information from the array, it's pretty simple. We'll just do this, and I'll code a little bit and then I'll explain what I did. Okay, so what I did was I wrote a for loop, and what I did in the for loop is I said, okay, we're going to have an integer I is going to equal 0, and then we're going to iterate through this loop, this for loop, as I increments by 1, and up until the I is less than 6. So it'll increment through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then stop. So we're gonna get these iterations, and that's in order to get all these numbers out right here. Is what is the purpose for that. Okay, so then here inside the for loop we output the array, which was called int list, and we're going to output whatever is in that index. So I is going to be 0, the first iteration will be 0, and whatever is in index 0, which is 0 in our case, is going to be printed out. So at this point we can go ahead and run this. And we have our array, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is output, which is the numbers that we had input. So that's the very simple way to initialize an array, populate it, and then the for loop for retrieving information from the array. So the next thing we're going to do is I want to demonstrate how to use a vector. And the reason I want to do this is because unlike Python and a few other languages where the array is dynamic or can be dynamic, in other words we can add elements to it, in C++ we can't do that. Once we've set the array, the size of the array, for example here we said it's going to be size of 6 indexes or 6 elements, once that's done, it's pretty much locked in. It's really hard to append to it. And a lot of times we need to add to an array, and so that's where vector comes in. So I'm going to go ahead and do a demonstration on vectors. And the first thing we need to do is up on top here, we need to tell the system that we're going to be using vectors. So let's go ahead and include the vector library. So we're going to do that now. And then over here, we can now declare our vector. And it's going to be of type int. And we're just going to call ours li. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to populate it. Now, we could populate this using a for loop or a while loop or something, and auto-generate our numbers or our information that we're going to put in there, our data. But right now, I'm just going to manually do it just to show you that how it's done. So let me type up just a couple of these, or 3 to be exact. Okay, so what I did to this point is we declared the vector in 27, and we named it li, and it's going to be of type int. And then here we take that vector called li, and we use the reserved keyword pushback to say that we're going to append to this vector, and we're going to add this value, which is 0, and we're going to add the value 1, and then on line 31 the value 2. So that's how we populate our vector. Now I'm going to output it, retrieve our information from the vector, and the way that you do that is you use a nice little for loop. So I'll go ahead and do that. The for loop has been created, and just like we did above, I went ahead and declared it as I. So it's going to be an integer I. We're going to set it to 0. We're going to iterate through the for loop until I reaches the size of the list, and we're going to increment I every iteration. So I is going to start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 until it reaches the size of the list or the vector, and it's going to stop. So the new things that you haven't seen before are the way to determine how large is the list, how many elements are in there, and the reserved keyword is size, and that's it, just size. And so we do period size, and that will tell us the size of the list, or how many elements are in the list, and it's returned as an integer, so we can say I is less than whatever the size of the list is. In our case, the size is 3, so I is going to do this until the size of 3, so 0, 1, 2, and then it stops. And what else is new here? I think that's it, just this size. What's nice about the vector versus the list, and I'll go ahead and scroll up a little bit so we can see the whole thing, is that with the vector we can dynamically append to the vector. We can add data to it, as we did in lines 29 through 31, and then we can retrieve it. And because a lot of times we don't know the actual size of the list, if we've been dynamically or programmatically adding to the vector, we have to use this size element here to say, determine the size, and that's where we're going to stop. So we can pull everything out of it, retrieve everything from the vector. Whereas with the list, we have to know what the size is. I could very easily have declared this with the size 6 right here and determined the size here, but because we hard-coded these, we knew that the size is 6. So the big difference here is that we're going to use the actual value of 6 since it's known, and here we're going to use we're going to use a function that determines what the size is since it might be unknown. Okay. One other thing I want to point out is on line 40, I put return 0. For some reason, when we first start coding in C++ in Visual Studio, you're going to get your int main, and you're not going to get the return 0. It's good practice to add this because the int main is saying that it's going to return an integer, and so we say we're going to return 0, which basically it's not really going to do anything, but it satisfies the compiler. Okay, so there we have it. We'll go ahead and run this, and we get our resultant. Here we have array with the elements 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here we have our vector, which was run here and is returned our three elements 0, 1, and 2. And that's it. Pretty simple. I'll let you take a look at that, and I will go ahead and make some other videos on arrays and maybe a little bit more on vectors, because there's other keywords here, reserved keywords that we can use, and different things we can do with vectors and arrays. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed it.